guys, it's Dave from 3DP and me. I lost my little chat window. I am back. I am learning the ropes of my new camera setup. I've got all sorts going on now. As you can see, things are a little bit brighter here in the room. I've got two little LED lights set up over there. I'm operating. Oh, let's just swap to that view and give you a little look around. We're currently running multiple cameras, so we've got the overhead view. We also have the DSLR over there and the GoPro up here for the overhead view. And then I've just got this one that we're moving around with just as a backup. Hopefully the audio is a bit better, and hopefully we have some background music, which has dropped off this scene annoyingly. Let's just quickly add that back in. Okay, and we should have some music as well. Focus on your face cam is those on boxes in the back. Oh no. Nope. Wrong direction. Better? Yeah. Cool. Right guys, so last time we were here, we were assembling the FMJ plates onto the Z-axis. And where I left you guys, I was a couple of T-nuts, sprung-loaded T-nuts short. Then classic me style, I'd also forgotten to tap the holes on either end. So I had to take it apart again, as is becoming ritual for me in this build. Yes, Tim man, you wish that you'd done FMJ from the beginning. I used Jake's before it had FMJ on it, and therefore I already made that mistake once. I've been there, I've played with the printed version, and it's good, but this thing's going to be a beast in comparison. There was a lot of chat last week about mounting the Z-axis using blind holes. So I have gone ahead and I've tapped the 4 holes down either side of my Z assembly. So I have 8 potential locations to blind mount this onto the Y-axis. But what that means is I need to take apart the Y-axis again to drill the Y-axis holes. But I think it's going to be worth it. The instant feedback from Jake was that his machine felt a lot stiffer just with those, not even with the side plates. So I think it's going to be worth the effort. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off stream, because I'm going to take it to work and use the pillar drill there, just because I think that'll get me a lot better quality holes. But as long as they're in the right rating, I've got too many cameras now, I don't know where to look. Right. So that's what we got to. Oh, you're a heavy beast. Hopefully with the audio, it should cut those top sharp noises when I put things up and down. Oh no, it might be you, I don't know, things look the same on my end. Okay, well, I'm working on that as well. This is a bit of an old higgledy-piggledy house that I live in, and well, the point where this desk is literally the furthest point from where the Wi-Fi router comes in. I do have a mesh network set up, but even the mesh network is struggling to reach through all of the solid walls in this house. And so I am going to install an Ethernet cable straight up to here, and that should hopefully help with that. Until then, there's not a lot I can do. It's literally, this PC is plugged into one of the mesh network nodes, so it can't really improve that much until I put the Ethernet in, unfortunately. Right. I was trying to get some nice neat hotkey switching for my scenes, but I'm not quite there yet. So we're going to hop over to the build guide quickly, and we're going to find where we got to on the Z-axis, let me just add, let's add my floating face for this view. Whoa. As well, just in the corner, so you can see what I'm doing while we go through the manual. So we got to putting together the Z-axis, where we basically went completely off script due to having FMJ. So here's the start of it. Yep. So Jake has kindly printed the ballast box for me, but I will add that in at a later date. I've not got any epoxy or anything ready yet, and I'm expecting to have to take this apart again. I'm not gonna lie. Right. Oh, interesting. Okay, so here's where we're at. So we have an assembled Z-axis. I need to thread. Right, that's just clear, so I don't need the XY at the moment, so we're going to just move that off the table. Let's swap to overhead cam. So we're going to assemble the Z-axis nut onto the Z-axis lead screw. And then we're going to mount the bearing block part onto the bottom of that section of the Z-axis. So let's go top down. GoPro, Droid Cam. Let's go for Droid Cam. That's more zoomed in, isn't it? Voila. In theory, the GoPro Script Dream, which is this one,
should be able to do 4K, but the quality on the
stream from my camera, my phone camera, looks a lot sharper, so I'm going to use that for now. I'm counting all of this as a learning experience this week, so we're probably going to be jumping all over the place with cameras, audio, etc. Do shout up if the music or anything else is not set up well. So I need those two parts. This bearing block for the bottom end of the Z-axis, which I need to install some heat set inserts into. Oh, yeah. Right, is that better? Yes, so okay. Yep, so I think each of my video inputs have an audio associated with them. It turns out I need to go through each of the channels and turn them off, so that I'm only using the one input from my DSLR. Cool. Top down again, yeah? Right. Okay, let's bring in the soldering iron. Oh no. I've used all my plugs for charging lights and devices. Get in. What size inserts are these? I clearly missed the step in the build guide where it told me to install these. Just looking through. Oh, there is no inserts, is there? We're going through the part into the bottom of the Z-axis. Okay, right. Where has my channel bit gone? There we go. Right. Cool, so don't need any inserts. Thread this through. Let's just roughly set this tension now, while I've got easy access to these lead screws. So I left a little gap on this side when I initially assembled this, so I can just tighten that up a fraction to get rid of that play. Keep that still running nice and smoothly. Cool. Right, put that to the side. Let's load Heavy Boy in. I'm hoping that the settings that I put for the audio now should cancel out any of the loud noises when things get put down or bits of metal touch other bits of metal. Please let me know if that's not the case and I will try and fix it for the future. Tin Man. Right, I've just seen what you posted on Discord and that part looks epic. Can you tell us a bit more about it in the chat? I didn't get a chance to actually read what you said while I was setting up for the stream. Right, it says M5x12, just 4 of these going upwards. Oh, need to clear out that printed sacrificial layer. The only downside of sacrificial layers is you don't. So did you hear that bleeping? So the reason, one of the main reasons I swapped to the Droid cam is because my GoPro still turns off and I haven't quite worked out which setting it is. I need to stop it turning off when it's in HDMI mode. So Tin Man says he sent a video follow-up as a quick release axle for an electric off-road vehicle. Made on a Milo. That is absolutely sick. Oh man, we're gonna have to take a pause from the build. This sounds too good to skip. Right, Discord. Wait, is it a YouTube video? Discord, what was it? Project Showcase, wasn't it? Oh, download. No, I don't want to download. Oh, I don't know where it's gone. I want to show everybody the awesomeness. Right, let's watch it on Discord. That's going to be the easiest way. Add window capture, Discord. Sorry guys, I'm just too interested in actually seeing what this part is to get on with the build. Totally honest. Discord. Perfect. Okay. Right, we are in Discord. Let's have a look, guys. Oh, nice. Tin Man, those parts are looking awesome. You're doing some spring passes on that diameter to get that good finish. And then you said the 2 parts that it mates with are also machined on Milo. Those are really cool, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing what other mad, crazy stuff you get up to with this machine. Very, very cool. Right. Distraction's over. Let's go back to what we were doing. I'm doing some finishing passes. Yes, it's 3 pieces. Sweet, man. That is really, really cool. It's starting to see finished parts. This is one of those classic things where people have got printers and then they 3D print more parts for their printers with their 3D printers, and that's all they print in terms of practical things. It's actually great to see that people are already using the mill for machining parts for the mill itself. That's a great first step. And then even cooler is the fact that people are milling parts, real parts for real other projects. Oh, it's just awesome. Go in the hole. Right, I'm just going to have to clean out these holes a bit better before I get these screws in. Too big. Ah, I moved all my drill bits downstairs, annoyingly. Now that technical tool of a screwdriver to free up the last bits of support. Nice work, guys. Like I said, I really can't wait to see some of these cool projects that people are doing. I find that I'm one of those people that spends most of his time making new parts for the machine that he's already got, rather than actually using it to do all the projects that I originally built it to buy and build. Hey Marky, good to see you here. Hopefully this stream is a bit smoother than the last one I did. Have you finished all your printed parts yet? I saw that you had 3 days to smash them out. Let's go in there. Okay. Let's drop that bearing in. Is it one of these? Oh, I must admit, I'm enjoying the top-down view. Much less of my face and much more of the actual build. Right. Just want to make sure that's still visible. I'm not doing a ballast box. We've built that, installed that. Right. So we want long side pointing outwards, and curvy side pointing up. Oh, you know what? I missed a whole step. When did the guide say to install the Z-axis feet? The axis rails. Yeah. Right, let's go back a step and do that. Yes and no. So I will be thread locking quite a lot of them, but I know I'm going to be taking this apart again. So I'm sort of reluctant to thread lock everything right now. I will come back and thread lock all of them later, unfortunately, which is a slightly repetitive way of doing things. An exception is the rails, because the rails won't be changing position once they are installed. I don't even know where I missed the rails going on the Z-axis in this guide. Oh, they don't, they just appear. Right, the guide needs add the rails onto the Z-axis adding in. They just magically appear at one step. Okay. yeah, dry fitting most of the parts, Marcus. Partly because I'm going to be doing some blind joints on the bottom of the Z-axis, and I'm hoping I can get that together without taking this part of the assembly apart. But I'm not 100% optimistic, and there was a lot of bolts to be dealing with if they've been thread locked. And there's so many of them that I can go in and take one out at a time and, you know, thread lock the other one back in whilst I'm waiting. Right. Let's get a couple of these in for the Z-axis lead screw. So how many holes do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So let's go for one right at the end. Ooh. Definitely want one at this end. How many do we reckon? Maybe 4 of them? Seems like a reasonable spread. And then I'd only be missing the 3 middle bolts. That seems reasonable. Hey Phil, good to see you. Actually, just going to uninstall that while I put the rails on. So what I'm doing there is taking the little stoppers off that prevent the carriages from slipping off the rails. Ooh. I was miles off on my guess for these numbers. Thought I was getting quite good at guessing the alignment. Can anyone remember whether it was... Yeah, it's 3x10s for the rails, isn't it? Pre-thread locked. So, like I said, I will be thread locking the rails just because they are... there should be no real reason to remove them once I've installed this. Alignment alignment guides don't fit. Okay, note to self, should have installed the rails onto this extrusion before building the FMJ, because the FMJ actually blocks blocks the positioning of the guide clips. That's going to add some fun. Yeah, can't get it on at all. Okay. Well, see where we get to. So on that note, I'm going to put these all in a bit loose and use the plate and stuff to help with the alignment. What are these off-road bike projects that you're working on, guys? Is it like a off-road like quad bike, 4x4 type thing? ATV, whatever they call them? Right. As I said, this is my first time with all these cameras set up, and the audio settings that I've got at the moment. So please just shout out if there's anything that doesn't seem to be working or missing something. It's actually because I hate my wheelchair. Oh, okay, so you're looking to swap out your day-to-day wheelchair for this off-road capable one? And presumably with that drivetrain I saw, electrically powered off-road capable one? Ooh. Okay, right. Still got a bit of wiggle room in both of those, that's good. Want to get out with the dogs like the old days. Nice. That'd be really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that in action. I can't think of anything better than seeing you charging around after those dogs on in a field or on some trail somewhere. Do you know what sort of range you're going to get on it once it's done? Where's the... There we go. Reveal the bolts that I'm actually using. Alright, so you notice that some of these are a little bit thread locked already, and that's because they came out of one of the other sets of rails that I installed and then had to uninstall multiple times on the X and Y axis. 3-wheel drive chair. So let's go back a step. So Tim Man has said I can just mount the axle on my wheelchair. Well, it's actually a 3-wheel drive chair. 50 kilometer, is that so he's just said he's hoping to get 50k of range off this chair, which is up there with half the electric cars that were available not long ago. Is that with like light use on pavements and then less on say fields, off-road, etc., I presume? Am I going to be filling my Z column with epoxy and granite mix? Short answer, yes. Mark, I will. Long answer, I have no idea when. I want to see what the performance of this assembly is, purely based on adding the FMJs. Mostly because a lot of people don't like working with epoxy. It's quite a step away from just screwing parts together, which the rest of Milo build essentially is, and therefore I'd like to see how well it can perform without the need of the epoxy. But long term I want to go epoxy filled column, and actually the electronics foot, I want to entirely fill that except for a few 3D printed channels to allow cable routing, because I don't plan on storing my electronics inside there. I'm going to be installing them in the electronics bay in the enclosure. Current prototype is pretty awesome and not very safe. I saw some quite big looking brakes on that picture you sent, but are they not suitable? You're curious how heavy it is with FMJ, right? I'm going to do a bit of community service work here then. Give me 1 minute and I will go and get the scales. It seems like a good time to find out. This is obviously going to be the Z-axis minus, well, I can put the plate on top of it. This will essentially be the Z-axis plus without the spindle. 1 second, guys. Okay. So. Okay. Let's see how heavy we're going. Right, turn you on without standing on it. Hopefully this is just heavy enough. There you go. 8.35 kilos, guys. So, fairly weighty. That's about the amount I need to lose before I get back to a weight I'm happy with. So I only have to shift 1 full Z-axis. Probably not as easy as it sounds. Right. Okay. Right. So next up we attach. Yeah, I mean it's heavy to lift around already. I can tell you that. Right. So next up we're going to have to attach the Z plate. So I actually machined mine on a Stepcraft hobby machine. Probably just rubbing that text off, but I'll do that later. Rather than buying it in, because I'm using the square spindle, so I've modified mine so that the square spindle will bolt directly on in four locations to the plate. There's no printed spindle holder in the middle in my build. Right, so we're going to use M5x16s to bolt through here first, and then M3x5s into all of the bearings themselves. However, I increased the thickness of those holes, so it will actually be M3x8s or 10s, I believe, from memory. So now this is going to be very awkward for alignment without getting these rails lined up first. How's the best way? Right, so what I'm actually going to do, let's push these right down to the end, and I'm just going to attach my Z plate to here so that I can use the position at the top and bottom to actually locate these rails. Yeah, so guys, if you're doing this again, attach the rails before you attach this part to when you're using the FMJs, because all those gaps that are there on the other versions aren't present. All that's on each side. Not. It sounds like an awesome project, man. Right. Okay. So they're nice and loose, so they can be moved backwards and forwards, both ends. Annoyingly, I can't even
put this adapter on and get into this end bracket. Okay, that is definitely worth thinking about when we do the build guide for those using FMJs in terms of the order they want to assemble this, because that is mighty annoying. And just barely squeeze it in. Okay. Actually, I'll leave these on because I haven't done that up that tight yet, so the rail will still be able to move a tiny bit. Hopefully keep it in place. We are going to need 3x8. So I'm going off book again here. The reason being, I can't actually use the guys. Oh, M3x8s are a bit short. Add a lot of thickness to this. M3x10s it is. Right, 3x10s. Cool, that's a much better projection. That way you can see that out of there. So my hope here is that this plate has been machined square enough that it is going to allow me to square up my rails using the plate itself. If this doesn't go to plan, then I'll be unscrewing these side bolts and this extrusion will be coming off. Do these up. Good news, that still slides. Let's just squeeze this back out of there. No, not possible. It is sandwiched in between the bearings. All the more fun. Right guys, when you do this, put the rails on before the FMJs. There's way more effort than it's worth. Okay, well, at least your bearings are positioning the rails up to this point. Unfortunately, I can't go any further along with this plan because the nut gets in the way. Okay. And annoyingly, I can't actually get to the last set of bolts without undoing these and removing it. Right, I need to have to switch them between torque mode and closed loop mode, which I don't think they openly offer. No idea how to do that. Tin Man, you're gonna have to explain a little bit more about what the project is I've no idea what it is that it. Oh, that's all right, guys. Your chat is probably far more interesting than me doing and undoing bolts on these rails to try and get them to run smoothly. I'm going to take a punt and hope that they're aligned, and we'll just see where we're at. Go in the hole. Okay, just need to check which way round this is. And I think I might have to pull up Fusion, because there's a number of changes in here to account for. And my Mega Spindle. Hi, X-Scale. So, if it's this way round, this will bottom out about here. Max out there. Ooh, I just don't know. No, I'm gonna have to. Well, them being at the bottom, I think probably answers. Location issue. No, I'm gonna have to look at. I'm gonna have to look in Fusion, guys. I can't remember what I did when I machined this part. Let's open Fusion. One other minor upgrade to my setup that I've done in the last few days for doing the streaming is literally just to extend the location of where the wireless mouse dongle is, because my PC is actually quite a few meters that way. The screen that I use for the stream is separate from the screen that I actually use for when I'm running, doing my day-to-day stuff on my PC. So right, where on earth did Fusion open? Too many windows. Nope. Good excuse to stand confused. Ooh. Fusion 360 seems to be refusing to open. How inconvenient. Service utility menu. Great. So it looks like Fusion 360 is down for me for whatever reason. Oh, no, now it's opening. I don't know what's going on. Not responding. Okay. Very confusing. Right. Let's just try and think about this logically. So, and these holes are lined up there. That will sit just clear of those. And clear. It's got to be this way around. Cool. Now, let's just swap, because you don't need to look at my crotch when I'm stood up like that. Joy cap. Right. What length are those bolts? M5 by 16s. 5 by 20s. Where are my 25 by 16s. Nowhere in sight. Now, this is the point where you really wish that you had got a bolt kit and not a series of individual bolts, not labelled or bagged nicely. Right, I think I actually have some 16s here, so... Okay, again, I'm just going to leave these a little bit loose whilst I'm doing up the rest of the assembly. I just don't want these things all interfering with each other. And I want the linear guides to be the thing that sets the position for everything else. Same as with logic with the other parts, I'm avoiding adding the third lock at the moment because I will likely be taking this apart again. Too many. Who else has been building bare Milos this weekend? I've seen more machining pics, I think, rather than build progresses. Oh, and Tin Man, I think everything I need except for the panels has now arrived for your enclosure build. So I'm looking forward to being the live guinea pig. I actually made the order before you specified the correct number of T-nuts, so I have 200 T-nuts here. Amazing how cheap you can get those when you order at that price. When you order at that volume. Oh, I've got a thing attached, but it seems to be sliding smoothly, so that's a good sign. Right. In some ways I agree. When you're attaching individual little bits like that, it can actually be easier with the T-nuts, rather than the spring sort of angle-in ones. But we'll see. I need to get one of those little electric screwdrivers that have like no torque, so there's no risk of stripping any screws, but they just stop slightly tedious. Twisty, twisty, twisty. When you've got so many M3s. Okay, we're still rolling. Tech, yes, I am using Loctite Techmovic, but also no, I'm not, because right now I know I'm going to be taking this back off. This is sort of like a dry fit. I'm potentially adjusting the positions on this, and I will be doing the blind joints on the Z onto the Y-axis, so I'm reluctant to get all of this Loctited in before I test that all of that can be assembled nicely without taking everything apart. Oh, why am I out of focus? Focus, please. Thank you. Yeah, that's why. Oh, you're not autofocus. Okay, I don't quite know what's going on here. Oh, there we go. We're back in focus. Right. Cool. I will probably do all of the Loctiting once I know I'm happy with it off stream. Where that is rolling smoothly, so that's a good start. Okay. Right. Right, guys, so let's quickly hop back to the build guide and see where we're at. So we have done this stage and this stage, and now we need to get the Z-axis top half of the assembly part out and ready. Here it is. So we have 2 heatset inserts to go into this and some holes to clean up. So let's just move this bad boy out of the way for a minute. Just a quick question again. The audio and stuff seemed fine for everyone at the start. Has that all been working okay since? And have we had any more of those video issues, or has it been running smoothly? One thing I do know I need to change is this. No, we're plugged in. So we're good. No, we're not good. Sorry. Trying to make sure that the camera that we're using doesn't die on us, because I swapped from the GoPro, which was planned for the primary camera, to the phone, which now has power, so we should be good. But I've messed up my angle. Better. Right, continue. Cool. Yeah, I think overall I'm much happier with the setup than that old webcam. Hopefully things are much more enjoyable from your end with the improved sound and audio. Sound and video. Right, 2 small inserts. And what we did, oh, M2.5s, tiny inserts. Right. What do we need? We need M2.5 by 4. 1, 2. One thing I will say, these I'm quite a pale person, but these lights do make me look even whiter than my normal white pasty self. Lovely. And my usual tactic of just pressing it down on a hard heat resistant surface. I need to start thinking what I want my workshop slash studio slash 3D printing area to look like. I've more or less been given permission by the wife to take over this entire room. So when it gets redecorated, I need to work out what's going to go on the walls, on my tools. I'm looking pretty excited about that, but having to take into account the ability to stream nicely with different camera views and stuff is going to put an interesting twist on that versus any setups that I've had in my previous homes. Just going to clean these holes out a tiny bit more. Feel a little bit straggling support material lingering in here. Come on. Clearly I'd have my drill bits for this, but I think they're downstairs from when I was fitting a radiator yesterday. Cool. Right, pliers prepared. I need 2 608 ZZ bearings. 1, 2. A supportive spouse, lucky man. She is mostly supportive. The main reason I think I've been given full permission is that this room is just so damn cold. It has about must be like 2 centimeters of insulation in the ceiling. As far as I'm aware, it's just a solid outer brick wall with no cavity or insulation. So that's possibly why I've been given this much area. I think my partner thinks my projects are cool. I have a Vaughan and Ender 5. Plus in the living room. Oh, there is no way I'd get away with having my stuff in the living room. But to be fair, we're in a reasonably privileged position such that there are plenty of other rooms. So it would be a bit of a silly request to want them in the living room. To be fair, I wouldn't want a 3D printer in the living room if I didn't have to have it there. Right. Oh no. Oh, we have just had a minor dilemma, whereby I forgot that this plate didn't have any end stops on it. Ooh, this is going to be fun. I think I might have to take the carriages off and do this bit again. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Let's
sliding as a footstool. Lush. Right, that has not gone particularly well. Gonna have to replace a couple of balls that just pops out of there. Luckily they did send me some spares, but I don't know where the spares are. How frustrating. Oh, I know. This is the exact reason why I spent all of that time trying to avoid taking these carriages off, regardless of whether or not I was sliding them onto any holders or temporary parts or whatever. The one advantage is that these balls are quite big, which means they're quite easy to put back in, unlike the tiny carriages. It looks like I'm just missing one now on that side. Yeah, just the one missing over here. Oh no, maybe a few more. Maybe two missing. How terribly frustrating. One. Okay, that's actually looking quite good again. That one's still full. It's okay. Missing one on that one. Anyone got any eagle eyes and can spot the last one? Or am I gonna have to dig that out of God knows where? As a fun side note, I've had this happen to me before on 3D printed carriages from CNA Rails, and if you message them, they will sell you just the replacement balls directly. Don't see anything, unfortunately. Trying to think which box. Is it the ball you're looking for in the sponge of the eye? No, unfortunately not. That would be a great spot. That is the leftover bits of solder. Okay, right. Let's take these back off and store them one at a time again. And I just need to... I'm just going to mark that one quickly with a pen so I know that that's the one that I need to replace a ball. So. It's all fun and games, isn't it? I don't think I've done a single stage of this build one single time. Okay. That's not the one I need to replace. one down. I'm going to try and put the one that needs replacing on the bottom actually, because that would be easier to take off than the top will be once all of the other bits are installed. Well, it actually looks okay now. Maybe I did find enough. Well, we'll find out, won't we? When I have horrendous issues with the bearings later on. Cool. Okay. Good news, it still feels good. Okay, which side do I just take this a close one? So another reason why I'm reluctant to ever take carriages off of their rails is a lot of the cheaper brands pair the carriages, and you probably noticed pair the carriages to the rails rather than achieving the same super high machining tolerance that you might get on some of the higher priced brands. And that allows them, actually you can see these numbers here, they've been marked and labelled, and that allows them to actually give you the preloads that you request. Rather than being really accurately machined. Sounding good. That one sounded a bit rough when I first put it on, but it's okay now. Good. Right, let's try this again, shall we? So I think, actually just take that back off and get all of these screws out first. In terms of cleaning and lubing rails, you nowadays, if you order from a reasonable supplier, all you really need to do is to wipe the, use a bit of isopropyl and just wipe the rails and spray a little bit into the carriage themselves, just to get that grease out, the travelling grease, wipe them down, and then replace it with lithium grease. I don't actually, at least based on my experience, I don't actually recommend taking your rails completely apart now. To do it, if they're running smooth, just get as much of that grease out, travelling grease out as you can, and replace with white lithium and go from there. And you're probably going to be good to go. As you can see, as soon as you start taking them apart and taking balls out, you then run the risk of not assembling them as well as they were assembled at the factory. And generally speaking, my experience is you don't need to do a complete clean and relube nowadays, which means there's quite a lot of, I'd say, somewhat misleading information on the internet now on that. Certainly it used to be the case, there was so much thick transportation, like lubrication in there, that you had to take it apart, and there's often grit and all sorts of other crud in there that you had to clear out before they would run nicely, if you were buying cheap rails. But we're not really in the same position now. I like to repat the ball bearings minimally. Yeah. Well, I mean, if I was having issues with any of my carriages, I would certainly give that a go and go down that route. And as you saw, I think I'm missing one ball now from one of them.
it wasn't running quite as smooth as the others, so it's quite possible that I'll be taking that one apart and cleaning it up. And yeah, I'm pretty sure CNA sent me some spares with these rails. I don't know if anyone else has got the CNA rail kit. Did they send any with them? Or was that just because I specifically asked for them at the time? The only issue with that is I put them with all of the other ball bearings for linear rails that I've got. And I have no idea where they are now since I moved house. So, who knows? No spare balls. Yeah, I didn't think it was part of the minimum BOM. It's not usually included. You can definitely request them from them though. I've got a spare set that actually came with this for MGN 9 rails as well, because one of their carriages on a printer that I've been running for a few years was starting to get a bit grubby, a bit worn out, so I wanted to just give them a good clean, and I knew I'd lose some, so I requested them to add some additional stuff in. One other reason for me not to be thread locking this quite yet is I know when I attach this spindle, I'm going to want to be checking that everything's running nice and true and perpendicular with the full thing assembled, rather than trying to get it correct now. So I'll be doing a lot more tinkering and aligning once the Z-axis has been attached to the X and Y. Cool, that's running smoothly still. What I'm really glad about, actually, the chamfer on this edge went lovely, but I've messed up the one on the underside, and there's a step somewhere around the edge. So I'm happy that this is the face that's been facing you all. And I was able to hide my machining shame on the underside. Tin Man, what's the biggest part you've machined so far? I don't think I've seen anyone do anything bigger than those bits that you posted on the channel. Good. Right, now we can finally get to the step that I was about to be trying about 10 minutes ago. Oh yeah, I forgot about Phil's. His whole machine plate is actually really cool. He's using most of the work volume, isn't he? I believe on Milo. How old is the project? So I had been following it for about a year before he lent me his machine. Once I'd started to get more actively involved on the design side and contributing sort of in the background, he lent me that to do some videos and get a bit of sort of social media sort of stuff out there. and it was going for a good while before that, so it's quite a few years old, but it's certainly getting a lot more momentum now that it's not just Jake working on the project. You've got really good contributors like Tin Man, who's awesome looking enclosure work, like just wouldn't have happened if he hadn't come on board and taken on that project. Simply just because of time. Unfortunately, none of us have that much time. Right, so I need to put a locking collet under here. But yeah, you're right. It still is pretty new, and you can tell that by parts of the manual that are missing little bits, and you know, sort of just the robustness of the entire ecosystem it's getting there. You know, especially with the release that Jake did just the other day. That will be a big help in easing people into it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, whilst the project itself has been around for quite a while, there's only really been Jake working on it up until very recently. So, what way am I doing here? That way. Right. These bearings keep falling out of the holes. Go in. There we go. What bolts is it? M512s. Not sure. Standards. I think in the next few months you're going to see a massive increase in the amount of maturity in all of the documentation and everything. We've got a lot more people with running mills out in the wild. For quite a long time it was just Jake, and that machine that I had and borrowed of his was the only one running, the only version 1.5 running at the time that I was making those videos. We were still learning how to work out and use a post-processor. Didn't have any of the tool setting work done, so it was interesting. How you get in that hole? Oh, one thing though, if you're ordering from Ooze Nest in the UK, just pay the £1 extra per extrusion and get all your holes tapped. Don't even think about it. I spent a long time just tapping holes the other day. Well, Tin Man, so you've got a little while to get it done before I start the build. That's the manual for the enclosure. But certainly I'm expecting to sort of work my own way through it, and hopefully we'll have some sort of level of guide together. I think the enclosure build guide is going to be a lot simpler. There's a lot less to go into it, and I don't think we need to write the build guide for it to include all of the variations that you could have. It only needs to cover the core build. I really wish I had my drill set up here to have cleaned out these a bit nicer. Doing my head in. bolts go vertical. Oh no. So those of you that watched the stream the other day, you will remember that this sat nicely vertically, all balanced on its own. But the addition of this aluminium plate has just pulled it off. Right. Want to be able to drop these bolts in a bit easier. There we go. Right, I think I'm gonna have to go and grab a drill bit just to clean up the inside of that hole a bit better, because the bolt is just not dropping in to the printed hole. Right. Give me 1 minute and I'll be back quickly. Oh, I'm back. Can everyone hear me again okay? Hopefully now these should just drop in. Oh man, why do these bolts hate going in this hole so much? It's not clear, they both look nice and clean now. Yeah, with regards to vendors, oh, yep, good shout. Now I've got clearance on the head. It's just being awkward. Yeah, so Ed has been doing a fair bit of work on the best place to... Bloody hell. Nearly catapulted it off the end again there. The best place to mount your spindle. And that's basically to ensure that you get a good clearance. Put this on here. So when you're at the maximum height, you want the spindle plus tool, if you're using one of the shorter tools, to clear the bottom of this, and that's so that you maximize your full clearance as working volume. But equally, when your spindle is at the bottom side, all the way down, you want your standard length tool for doing your final cuts when you're doing plate work to be able to reach the table. Otherwise you can't actually use the bottom part of your clearance. So Ed's been working on that height. Mine is mounted based on what I guessed at the time. Talking to Ed, I think his plan is actually to drop the FMJs down so they attach onto both parts of the y-axis, both rungs, and then lift the position from where I have it currently up 10mm, and I think that change gets what he's worked out as being sort of the optimal setup. I'm going to go ahead with what I've got currently, just to avoid having to machine a new plate, but I'll probably, once this is up and running, modify that. Can't get this bearing back out now that it's jammed itself all the way up there. Rotter. Come on. Be fun to put that down. Right. Might be taking that plate off again. Anyway, let's get these bolts in before I keep getting distracted. Oh, we've gone wonky up here and everything because I've hit my head on it. Oh, there we go. Right. Holes are clean. They now even have a small little chamfer. Yeah, so I have been a big advocate of the square spindle sort of from the start, but Jake is right that they aren't all the same. It looks like quite a few of them are the same, so we might be in a better position than we maybe thought when it comes to square spindles, but my time using Jake's machine, one of the things that really annoyed me was tramming the spindle, and how to do that you had to sort of take apart the whole front of the machine and clamp it down at the same time as trying to align it, and this option just seemed a lot more straightforward as well as stiffer. Okay, so one of those has gone in nicely now. Don't really know. I need like a apprenticeship in getting bolts in holes by the looks of it. Like, what is going on? These hole clearances are very tight in the printed parts. I have noticed that, but I think Jake's done that deliberately for alignment. The tighter you can get away with, the better things will line up. Yes, there it goes. Finally! We are in. Again, no thread lock. I already know I have to take one of these parts off to fix the rogue ball bearing that I need to replace, so. But it's all fun and games. Right. The 10-min bolt. Oh man. What a pain in the arse there. Now during all of that process, I've lost all of the bearings and things all the way down underneath here. Guess what's coming off again, guys? Oh yeah, Jake did do some lovely prints for me. Focus, thank you. His trident is working lovely at the moment. And it's making me very jealous because my VCore 3 is very good. It's very fast with PETG, but it doesn't get that hot because the general design is just so much more space that gets heated up. It is what it is. Also, it sits at work a lot, which means I don't actually get time to print nicely on it. And then my V0 is over there, and it's my dev printer, which means it gets taken apart and a new control board goes on it almost every week or two, which isn't the best solution for consistently getting good prints. Has anyone else got a Vaughan Zero? I have had enough with the homing method to the top of the printer. I'm going to be moving to the V0.2 position for the end stop. I'm hoping that's going to stop some of the annoyance I have with the nozzle and it's sort of crashing and interfering with each other. Yeah, and on that note, big shout out if you're in the UK or Europe and you are in need of the printed parts. Jake is running a bit of a print it forward type scheme. The links are on the Discord if you can't print your own. Shout out to him, they're very reasonably priced. There's all the bits and bobs that I need. Come on. Don't need that sticking out the bottom. Who remembers where the last locking nut goes? Can they give me an extra one? I missed something. Is there meant to be a locking nut on the bottom of the Z? Did I miss that? Got one left over. Either CNA have given me a bonus one. Yes, it looks like I should have had one on the bottom, which probably would have solved all my issues. Yes, the prints are big. That is one of the biggest. No, it doesn't go down there, does it? Right guys, question to those who built it. Do you have a locking nut on the inside here? I seem to have one spare. I don't know what to do with it. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, that would lead to a bit of a tolerance fight, so... Fair enough? Right. How much do I need this lead screw to stick out? Basically, I'm going to try and lock the lead screw in place this time and not have it jump around. Quite a lot sticking out the top. Need to be able to fit one of these, don't we? Yes, you have a collar down there. Okay. I too am going to go that route then, Tin Man. It's working for you. It's going to serve me a purpose of reducing annoyance, which is worth every penny. No, not that one. The big one that goes on that end, isn't it? Cool. Let's just make sure I've got enough lead screw to attach this on without losing it. Right, take 4, 5, 6. I don't know how many I'm on for doing this, but many takes. At least that can't slide down too far now. I'm going to go ahead and just get this one on nicely while I'm at it. Let that go. Start up into that as much as I can. Yeah, please. Right. Okay, this now won't mess me around and move everywhere. I'm pretty happy I've not got any play there, so that's good. Okay, take 6 or whatever I'm on. Let's do this. Oh wait, I did this last time as well. Won't be able to see what I'm aligning if all of the hole already filled with bolts. Yeah. So even though I'm not using the GoPro at the moment for the overhead camera because my phone is actually working as a better source, I think it's going to be really good. I got a little cover for it that has a gap for where the wires go in, so it can have power and HDMI out. But it also has the glass front lens protector, so I'll be able to have it inside the enclosure, getting the same cool close-up machining shots when we get to doing some live machining at some point. Must admit, it becomes quite an unwieldy block of weight, this, once you get to this stage. And that spindle weighs a fair whack all on its own. Yeah, the extra Z height is going to be very useful as well. When I was doing some of my test work, I also ran out of Z height. Yeah, I had a few close calls with the bearing block as well. In one of the videos I was doing, I actually had a part that was taller than the clearance here. But thankfully it had such minimal travel in the Y that it didn't matter. And so I could do the top first two operations, which dropped it about 1 millimeter below this height. and then it was all good. 6 kilos of just spindle. Well, mine's not quite 6 kilos. I don't think, anyway. Let me quickly measure it. I think it's like 2.5 or something. Too light to be registered. Oh, 4.5. Okay, so my spindle's 4.5 kilos on its own, so not to be sniffed at. Right. I think where I want to get to today with this build is ideally just to attach this onto the Y, just to see how stiff it is without the blind joints. And then, oh, I forgot I can't. We are still running nice and smoothly. Yes, I did use the parametric file. What I did change though was I just made sure that the holes were set up for the standard M5 bolts, not the, I think, M6 ones that Tech had been using. And what else did I do? So just loosening these other ones. Didn't look too tight before I got as far as I wanted to get. And I set the clearance height to 120mm. And that's about all I changed, I think. In fact, I think that is all I changed. But they're all configurable parameters in his file. Right. Do with a little handle for this one. Ooh. So my plan for making sure it's all square, has anyone seen, well, to get the general assembly square, I have a number of, I've got some 1, 2, 3 blocks and a small machinist's right angle square. So I'll be using those initially to check that the Z-axis is running square with the table. I'll be using the 1, 2, 3 block and sort of tracking the travel of the block with a some dial gauge indicators. And then for the actual tramming, I want to print, I'm going to print a holder to hold 2 dial indicators separated by a reasonable distance, and then you can rotate that to the 2 different positions, and that will give you an exaggerated tilt that you can measure, and then I will try and adjust it. And I think I may buy some very thin shimming steel, but I'm hoping that it's all going to be close enough that I can just do it by, you know, sort of manually adjusting by holding the part, getting it correct and tightening it up and just going that way. When I did Jake's one, I was able to do that, but I did actually have to rest the spindle down when it was mounted onto a 1, 2, 3 block to take that weight off the axis enough that I could actually achieve a well-trammed machine. That was purely based on the fact that I had to lock it in place further back than true, because the spindle weight caused it to sag a little, just because that bolted joint right down at the bottom here wasn't strong enough. Do you stream that? I might do. I think I would. It's going to be quite a long process the first time I do it. So I think I will possibly do it offline, and then I can stream once I have a successful process to share with you all. I think that's probably the best way of doing that, rather than a couple of hour long stream of me not achieving the desired results. Right, this is moving nicely. It's done up tightly everywhere. Nope, not here. Okay. Right. Right. That looks good. What do we have next? What time is it? 9:30. Okay, guys, I don't have long, so let's see where we are at. Okay, so we just need to attach the pulleys onto the top of the Z-axis and the motor into the motor bracket. That seems very achievable. And we are doing M5 by 20s with M5 nylocks and some washers. That's my washers. That's my M5 by 20s. And then I saw the nylocks earlier. And there they are. Right. I always laugh when I come across this spanner. It is a huge free spanner with new spindle, anyone? Right, so as per usual on this build I'm using the LDO NEMA 23 steppers. These were gifted by LDO, so big shout out to them for supporting this project. They've been supporting us for quite a while actually, and they've given Jake some really big help getting him up and running and able to prototype much quicker thanks to their help. So big shout out to Jason and the other guys at LDO for supporting the project. Right. And obviously to ZX Cola, the Coca-Cola clone from Audi. Only joking, they don't sponsor me, but I would take their money. Right. Let's swap back to overhead view. If anyone knows a really good and cheap macro keyboard, I would be very appreciative if you could send me the link, because I want to bind all of my scene switching to one of them, and I think that would make life a lot smoother. Right. So first stage was this pulley. It's nice and easy. And it was this way up. Right. Cool. Okay, so build guide has, make sure when you assemble this that the actual teeth part of the pulley is on the upside and the locking collar is facing down, just to make sure it's at the right height. Right. Once you've assembled this, that'll be the end of tonight's stream. Let me just close that door. Right. For Nylox. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5 by 20s. One, 2, 3, 4. Move all these random bits out of the way. Of those washers. So, let's think about my motor wiring again. In reality, it's probably easiest if it just comes out the back. Moving it up and through a washer, and then do the nylock. No, not yet. Ooh, this is going to be a bit fiddly, isn't it? Okay, so this is where the FMJs make life a little bit harder again. That is a tight spot to get into. So I'm going to try and feed it in on the end of the Allen key. Looks like we might be in. Right, FMJ friends, how did you manage to do those bolts up well? Because that is going to be a tight squeeze. Excuse my head getting in the stream. I said no. Lots of Lego as a kid. Yeah, a fair amount to be honest. I can't seem to manage the one that's on the far side though. Probably because I can't see it. There we go. I think that could be justification for a slight modification to the FMJs. Because it's going to be fun, but at least you can do it up from the underside. Now, the spanner. Then, okay, spanners are downstairs. This is what happens when your building tools are also the tools that you use for building your house. Right, on that note, I am going to leave it as is. Let's just swap that. That's my mouse. Wrong one. Right, guys. So
we're nearly there. Most of the Z-axis is assembled. We just need to tighten up the motor up here and add our pulley. And then the Z-axis will be more or less complete. So, until next time, guys, have a nice day. See you guys.